Okay, welcome everybody. It's nice to see you all here. So we're Society Speakers, we're a Toastmasters Club, we're based in London. Great to see people from all over the world here so far. We normally meet, we're a regular Toastmasters Club, we normally meet on the first and third Wednesday of every month. But since we went online, obviously most clubs around the world are online. Since we went online, we've been trying to put in these workshops as well, where we have our own club speakers come and do some longer pieces and longer talks for us, and mix it in with some international speakers as well. So tonight we've got Nish up first, who joined us a few months ago and is going to speak to us on working remotely. Then you could either have a break or you could listen to me for 20 minutes. I'm going to do something on AX, so we'll find out more about that later. And then we've got our special guest speaker for the evening, Linda Marie Miller, who was the first place runner-up in the World Championships of Public Speaking that happened at the end of August. So we're really excited about that. And she's going to be speaking to us about adding magic to our presentations. Should be really good. So we're going to get going now, and we're going to start with our first speaker, who is Nish. Now, Nish has been a member of Society Speakers for 3 months. She's the founder of 11 Consulting, and she helps enterprises and people build high performance habits through practical content and tools to help them navigate through this challenging time. And I thought it'd be good to get Nish today, because I think all the workshops we've had over the past couple of months have been based around specifically on speaking skills. And obviously we're Toastmasters, so that's good. But Nish is kind of an expert in the field of working online, working from home, and we all need those skills at the moment. So I thought it'd be great to get Nish in and give us a slightly different kind of talk. So with her workshop, Working Remotely, can we give a big round of applause, please, to Nish Ranasinghe?
Hi everyone. And also, welcome to my little workshop here. I'm excited to be here. My goodness, I don't think I've ever met anyone from Puerto Rico before, let alone Trinidad. So I'm excited to meet you guys as well. So and thank you to everyone for being here this evening. So let me start off with a question to you guys. Let me do this. It's the first time I've used this virtual background thing, so do excuse the haphazard nature of what this might be. So anyway, I'm going to start off with a question. So how many of you, on a scale of 1 to 5, so 1 being terrible and 5 being excellent, how many of you believe that you are more productive at the moment working from home than you were in the office? All of us are working from home. And what I'd like you to do is actually spend a few minutes thinking about this and popping it into the chat bot, the chat window here. So you could put a scale of 1 to 5, it'd be really great to see where everyone's at the moment. Goodness, cool. We've got some, okay. We've got a bit of a few 4s in there. That's pretty good. 5 was more productive, yes. Okay, cool. So we've got a mixed bag, but basically what I want to do over the next sort of 20 minutes is take you through some of the things that I've been doing to keep me productive working from home. So I've been able, since lockdown started back in March, able to actually successfully launch my business and get into a position where I'm successfully now working solely on my business, and also getting clients from all different walks of life to come and work with me. So I'd like to just share some of the insights that I've been, or tricks and things that I've been using over the last few months to keep me productive. And it's basically top 3 tips. Now there's no science, there's no stats behind it. It's purely stuff that I've been using. So yeah, it's just a little snippet of that. So the first thing that I'd like to show you is this you. All of us are working from home. How many of you have picked up your laptop, plonked it on your bed, and just started working as soon as you wake up? And that's fine if you're doing that. It was a novelty that we've a bit of a novelty that's become a bit of a norm. But how many of you are doing this, and how many of you are realizing that is that working from home, or is actually living at work? Doing this in the first few weeks is how, are you making sure that you're getting up, you're walking around? How many of you are forgetting to have lunch, working through into the night? So my first tip is actually to show up for work. So a bit of a story here for you. So when I first started working from home, I was about 21, 22, and I was living at home with my parents. And I remember, my first week or something of working from home, I plonked my laptop down. I was in my pajamas working on the dining room table. And I remember my dad coming downstairs and saying, he was off about to go to work. And he looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm working from home, Dad. That's what I'm doing." And he looked at me and he said, "This is not working from home. You're in your pajamas. You can't possibly be in the right mindset to go and work, to be working from home. So get up and get dressed." That is my first piece of advice, because there's a ritualist nature to how we set ourselves into the right mindset for actually working, for going to work. We get up, we have a shower, we brush our teeth, we get on the train, we commute in, we have little things that we do, go and grab a coffee before we go up to the office. And all of those things are keeping our minds ready to say, "Okay, cool, I'm working from home, I'm working. I'm getting my mind ready to start that process." And if you're just picking yourself up and you're staying in bed and you're keeping in your pajamas, I'm not 100% sure that you're necessarily doing the best you can to set your mind right for that day. So my first thing that I always do is get up, get dressed. I actually just recently started with a client. I even went shopping. I got some new clothes just to sit in my home and do kind of conference calls. But yes, that's my first piece of advice: is get up and get dressed. The next thing is how many of you is this? So you probably haven't got up. You're in your PJs and you're sitting there with your cameras off on conference calls. And when someone calls you, they're, "Oh, hey, do you want to catch up? Do you want to have a quick one-on-one?" You get on the one-on-one and you don't turn your camera on. The picture here of this, where you see the conference call here, that's actually a conference call that I had this morning with a client that I'm working on. So all of them, that's 6 people. There was actually 15 people in that call, all with their cameras off. And for me, when you're speaking to people with their cameras off, in my mind, it's the same as speaking to somebody with their back turned. So there's something to be said for keeping your camera turned on. And if obviously you've got up and got dressed, then there's no excuse. So my next piece of advice is show up for your team, put your cameras on. This is actually a team that I'm working in at the moment, a software development team. So all of these people are in my team. And every day we have a stand-up meeting and we keep our cameras on. And this is actually a meeting that we have every Friday, a theme meeting. And this was favorite movies. I don't know whether you can guess some of the movies. I'm here, that's me over there. I had a box of chocolates, so it was Forrest Gump. But basically, the idea is that we take the time every day to connect with each other. And this team has actually, in the last 8 weeks, we've formed 2 of these teams. 2 of these people in this team are actually in completely different countries. We've never met each other. One's in Portugal, one's in Costa Rica. But we've managed to deliver to the client in 8 weeks. And I'm not saying that's purely because we keep our cameras turned on, but it builds trust, it builds rapport, and it builds relationships. And that is what builds productivity in teams, being able to work together. So please turn your cameras on. And then my next thing is, how many of this at the moment is you as well? So just completely overwhelmed, completely overworked, and just a little bit anxious about what's going on. And I think what I'm trying to reflect here is that we're in a really strange, difficult time. Everyone's talking about uncertain times, and it's important to acknowledge these feelings as well. And it's important to realize that no amount of sort of online quizzing or video virtual drinks with your family is going to stop us from feeling that way. So my final tip is to take time in your day to show up for yourself, and it's to take time to pause and to breathe. And I know that some people have kids and some people find this difficult, but there's always time in the day that you can take for yourself to really acknowledge the feelings that you're feeling and say, okay, where am I today? And what am I feeling? What am I anxious about? And what that does is bring your mind into center, and realize all the things that you can control, that are within your control, and all of the external factors which are out of your control. And people talk about mindfulness and keeping centered and present, but this has really, really helped me over the last few months. Have been in a difficult consulting position, taking time to wake up every morning and take a few minutes just to sort of center myself before I do anything. And what I'd like to really do is take this opportunity to give you a bit of a mantra as to what it is that I do. So this mantra, which I'll read out to you in a second, but that's taken from a meditation, loving kindness meditation, which is in the Buddhist religion. And what it says is, may I be free from anger, may I be free from ill will, and may I be happy and peaceful. Now, the mantra actually extends. It says you can, the next part of it is, may my mother be free from anger, may my father be free from anger. And you can say these lines and you can extend that love and kindness out to whoever you want to. But what I always take from this particular meditation is that the first person that you always say, or you always extend love and kindness to, is yourself. So you start with myself. May I be free from anger, may I be free from ill will, and may I be happy and peaceful. And what I do is, or try to do for at least a few moments a day, is repeat that stanza 3 times. So if you will allow me to enter this into your practice, it would be great to leave you guys in a small, if you're going to take a moment today, it would be cool to do it now. But can I invite you all to shut your eyes and take a deep breath in and out? And then just think to yourself, may I be free from anger? May I be free from ill will? May I be happy and peaceful? Okay, and that was my tips. You can open your eyes now, guys. So yeah, for me, the 3 tips that I can say that have kept me productive and resilient over the last few months: show up for work, get up and get dressed. Show up for your team, even if you're the only person on that conference call with your face on the screen. Do it, because you can be leaders in this and actually, be the person who's trying to build that rapport within your team. And then finally, show up for yourself. Take time every day, even if it's a couple of minutes, just to center yourself and breathe. Even if it's just taking a few deep breaths in and out, just make sure that that is time that you're giving to yourself and allowing yourself to be kind to yourself. So that's me. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, if you do have a question, I think I've just put hands up, Nish, and can you see everybody, or actually you might have to turn off your screen share so you can see.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So yeah, anyone got a question, put your hands up and Nish will get to you. I've got one. If you did that meditation thing at the end, so if people are maybe not familiar with getting involved with meditation, is it something that's hard to get started with, would you say? Because I've never done it before, but I'd just be interested to know a bit more about that.
So it isn't easy to get involved in straight away, because often what I find is people whoever's asked me what I do with meditation, I always say that it's like anything. It's kind of like building muscle. So when you first go to the gym, you pick up a weight and it's a 5 kilo weight and you're like, oh, that's really difficult. But then you don't give up, right? You pick it up again the next week, you pick it up again the next week, and you do it until you can pick up the 6 kilogram weight and the 7 kilogram weight. And what I'd say is that if you can sit with yourself, even for a minute, just for a moment, take 1 minute, to try and steady your mind. And then the next day, try and sit for 2 minutes. And people often give up saying, oh, I can't do meditation. My mind just wanders too much. But that's actually part of it. Part of the first steps of meditation is allowing yourself to your mind to wander. And maybe that day you sit there for 2 minutes and you're only thinking about your to-do list. But then at least you know, okay, cool, I'm anxious about what I need to do today. So I can tick off that, I can do my to-do list and I can finish it. And the next day you're thinking about something else, and then you can focus in on that particular energy. So what I'd say is that with anything, it sort of takes a little bit of practice, but shouldn't beat yourself up if you find it difficult. I think the best things in life are probably the most difficult to come by. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you. Apparently, so you can use the reactions. There isn't a raise hands, but anybody, maybe just, yeah, Shipriya, maybe just raise your actual hand.
Thank you so much, Dan. Hi, Nish. I think the tips have been fabulous and it's very, very helpful. I have just one question. I come from a different part of the country where we actually don't have a bifurcation of work time versus me time or the personal time. And a lot of times when you're alone, you have to manage your work and your household chores and everything. So do you have any specific tips in which we can manage our work better during weekdays?
So this is an interesting one, because I'm a huge believer in just doing things when you want to do them. So for example, I know that from probably 8:30 till 12:30, I'm pretty focused. And then I'll have lunch, and then my mind starts wandering. And if, for example, I decide to go and put my washing in at 1 o'clock instead of going back to work after lunch, I'll just do it. And then maybe make up the hours somewhere else, because, or, you know, it's basically down to the work that you have to do. If you don't have 8 hours of work to do in a day, then break it up. And you know, if you're sitting at your desk and the only thing that you're thinking of is putting the washing in, it's not hugely productive time. So work when you have that moment to work and focus. If you want to go put your washing in, if you want to go do do your grocery shop at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, go and do that as well, because that just finishes that task and moves your center back into what you need to be doing. So I'm not a huge advocate of getting up at sort of 8:30, sitting at your desk till 5:30 to make sure that you're kind of feigning a productive working day. I'm much more an advocate of working at the times that you know that you're being productive. So I know, for example, for me, over the last 8 months, it's been 8:30 till 12:30, and then after lunch, probably about 2 o'clock, I pick everything back up again. And then I might do a couple of hours in the evening after dinner. So that's just how I've learned to understand when my mind is concentrated. And similarly for everyone else, it could be the same. It could be that you're more of a morning person, you want to get up early, you want to stay up a bit late. So that's what I would say. Manage your work. Your chores still have to be done. So, and this gives us the opportunity to know when we can do them best. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's a question in the chat here, Nish, from Toby. It says, how can we help people see Toastmasters meetings, or I suppose anything that's not work, as different from work meetings? Because obviously people are starting to get zoomed out, and they might have a day of work meetings, and then Toastmasters or whatever it is in the evening might just feel like a bit much. Have you got any advice on that?
So I think that, you know, maybe I'm being a little bit biased, but our Toastmasters meetings that we do as Society Speakers are pretty cool in that, you know, there's often a theme, and you come to the kind of Toastmasters meeting with a different mindset. You're sitting there going, oh cool, I'm here to sort of listen to speeches, or put a holiday theme on, or whatever it is. It's just creating that sense of fun outside of you know, a normal work meeting is just you sitting there with your screen on and talking about work stuff. But a Toastmasters meeting, you could start doing themes. You could start, like, you know, funny hat day, or we did favorite movies in my team the other day. But yeah, I'd say that with the Toastmasters meetings, you can just introduce a different environment, I suppose. For me, I always do the Toastmasters meeting in my living room, for example, so I can pretend that I'm not at work. I'm in my office right now, but usually when I'm doing the Toastmasters meetings, I'll have a glass of gin, as Dan knows, and and a gin and tonic, and I'm sitting in my living room just to make it more fun. So yeah, like it's just switching people's thought processes and how they actually interact. So yeah, maybe that might be an idea.
Yeah, I suppose that move, just a small thing like moving, is quite important, isn't it, to differentiate between them. If anyone else wants to put their hand up or put a question in the chat. Meanwhile, I wanted to ask which one you think is the most important of the three. Your 3 tips. I think go on.
If do you know what? So I know that people won't necessarily get into the meditation thing. They won't necessarily want to kind of change the fact that they're working in their pajamas. The only thing, if you take nothing else away, is keep your cameras on. And I'm looking at all these people with all the cameras off right now, but I'm kidding. But like for your team meetings and things like that, but that is one thing that it's second to none, having that facial that communication and facial interaction, especially if, for example, like myself, I live alone and I can get through a whole day of meetings where I've been speaking to people and I feel like I've gone and met them. In my mind, it feels like I've actually met them in person. And it's incredible how much interaction you get from just seeing people on a screen, how that affects your brain in the same way. So that's one thing I'd say. If there's nothing else you take away from this, try and keep your cameras on when you're on meetings and one-to-one meetings.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we've still got quite a few without cameras, but
I haven't managed to convince them, but it's fine.
Can I ask a question?
yes.
Then, yeah, Mustafa. I'll try and turn my camera on. Okay. Essentially, I mean, you said meditation.
Yeah.
How that is similar or different from mindfulness? You know, there's a lot of literature on mindfulness in the Western world, particularly within the therapy, within the CBT type of world. So how that is similar and different from meditation that you just mentioned?
So I wouldn't say it's hugely different, but I think mindfulness is actually easy, potentially like in a practical level. Mindfulness is probably easier to practice. So mindfulness is about being present in your moment. So for example, let's just say that you're making a cup of tea, it's about sitting there with that cup of tea and genuinely stirring the tea and thinking like, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm stirring this tea, I'm pouring the water into the pot, I'm doing all these things. So from a practical perspective, if you're busy with children, if you're busy with, things like that, it's easier to practice from a practical point of view. Meditation is probably more about sitting with your thoughts and trying to center yourself. And I think it takes probably a little bit more, it probably demands a little bit more where you actually segregate time away to step away from people and actually segregate time out of your day to do that, which might be a bit more difficult for people. But certainly starting with mindfulness, there's all these different things that you can do. Mindful eating, that's also a really good practice where you literally take every mouthful and there's a whole school of thought where you think about what you're eating, you give thanks to the vegetables and all these different things. But you try and taste the food around your palate, try and understand where the bitterness is hitting your tongue. And there's all these different things that you can do, which is, I think mindfulness actually is a good practice practically. And yeah, it's kind of one and the same, but mindfulness, I'd say, is a little bit more practically focused.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mustafa. Anybody else? We've got another minute or so if there's any other questions. No? Okay, well done, Nish. Thank you. That was really, really good. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So I think I'm due to start about past. So maybe we'll just have a couple of minutes break and, well, we'll come back at past. So for 5 minutes, feel free to chat and do whatever, leave your videos on, and we'll start again in 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we'll start again in 1 more minute.
Hello, Daniel.
Hello, who's this? Sorry, I can't see the screen.
It's Louisa.
Oh, hi, Louisa. Good.
Thank you for sending me the link. Yeah.
Right, let's get going again then. So I'm going to run this next session. It's going to be about speech writing, really, but how we can specifically write our speeches with the audience in mind. I think that's probably the most important part of writing a speech is thinking of the audience the whole time. So I wanted to start by giving you 2 openings to the same speech. And then I want to tell you, well, I'll put a poll up and I want you to tell me which one you preferred out of the 2. And there's, you could pick either or. So I'm gonna give you these. Let's go with the first one. Okay. I've had lots of fights in my life. Sometimes I've had fights with friends. Like the time I had a fight with Jonathan on the playground at school when I was 8. And another time I had a fight with Paul because he stole my paintbrush when I was in art class on a cold Tuesday afternoon in autumn 1989. I've also had fights as an adult. Well, not actual fights involving fists, but more arguments. I think it's important, though, to always learn from fights. It doesn't matter if they were fights when we were young or fights when you're an adult. We can always learn something. My fights have taught me that it's important to always try and stay standing up. And if I get knocked down, it's important to get back up again quickly on my feet. And today I'm going to tell you about some of the fights I've had, and I'm going to tell you about what I learned. And by the end of my speech, I'm going to teach you how to overcome your fear of fighting so that you can learn lessons and also stay standing. Okay, so that was opening 1. Now, this is the second one. Same speech, different opening. Life will sometimes feel like a fight. The punches, jabs, and hooks will come in the form of challenges, obstacles, and failures. Yet, if you stay in the ring and learn from those past fights, at the end of each round, you'll be still standing. Okay, so let's put a poll up. Which one of those did you prefer? Hopefully you at least like one of them. Also, if you're off mute at the moment, could you mute yourselves? Okay. Okay, thank you. So I don't need to put the results up. It was a clear win for the second one. So the first opening had 200 words. And to be honest, it would probably lose, for me anyway, I think it would lose an audience after about 10 of them. Because I don't think an audience really care about when examples happen, whether they happened on a Tuesday afternoon in autumn 1989 or a Saturday morning in 2020. And they certainly don't want examples in your opening, in your introduction. And they don't want to know what you're going to tell them and how you're going to do it and what they'll have learned by the end. Not really, because if you do these things well in the speech, it's going to happen naturally. There's an old presenting mantra, I think most Toastmasters have probably heard it, that says, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. I'd say don't do that. Don't do that. It's really, really boring. Don't ever do that. So the second example, the second intro to a speech I did was the actual opening from the winning speech from the 2018 World Champion of Public Speaking, Ramona J. Smith. So some of you might have recognized it, but that was the opening to a speech that actually won the World Championships. So if you voted for the other one, which I just threw together this afternoon, well, anyway, some of you did. But the second example there, it basically said everything the first one did, but in 400 words rather than 200. And I think it keeps the audience engaged and excited for what's to come as well. It doesn't tell them what's going to come. It just excites them about what's going to come. Now, I'd say that when Ramona first sat down to write this speech, her first draft might have looked like the bit that I wrote at the start there, it might have been similar, or it might have looked nothing like my example, probably not. But one thing is for sure, it wouldn't have looked anything like her final version that she went to compete with. And that's why I think if we want to do well in our speeches, if we want to keep an audience engaged and actually listening to what we say, we have to write our speeches first and then edit and edit and edit and edit until we finally get to a version that's going to work for the audience. And even then, we're always going to keep editing each time we do it. Now, I know some of you probably don't put in that much effort. Sometimes I don't put that much effort into a speech, and we can all be like that. And sometimes we might just be, we might just put effort into a contest speech or a speech that means a lot to us and not worry so much about the others. And that's fine, we all do it. But the less you edit your speech and the less effort you put into thinking about the audience, the less they're going to bother listening beyond the first few lines. And I think really we all know that and accept that because we're all audience members far more than we're speakers. And we understand that when we feel a speech isn't quite right for us, quite engaging us, we can drift away so easily. So assuming we do want to engage our audience and we want them to enjoy our speech and think of us as a good speaker, what can we do to improve not just the openings, but the entire speeches? So I work in copywriting for websites and within digital UX, which is digital user experience. And over the last 10 years, companies, businesses have been investing so much in digital user experience. So when would you have a user experience with digitally with a business? Well, whenever you use their website, their mobile site, their app, or even a social network, if you're interacting with a business, they'd all be examples. And these businesses have worked out that when they're trying to sell a product or even just get a click on their website, they've got a minimum amount of time and space to do it. An online audience, they're not prepared to sit reading lots and lots of information about something. They'll make their decision on whether to buy or click within the first word or two usually. So that's led to short, simple messaging with really powerful images that get straight to the point in order to try and engage and grab their users and actually sell to them. So even if the company would love to say so much more about what they're selling, they've worked out there's no point because that online audience only cares about what's in it for them. And they're just going to give it a few seconds before they click away and go to another site. And I don't know about you, but I think that sounds very like a real live audience when we're given our speeches. So I thought it might be good just to have a quick look at some examples of these websites and how they've changed to focus more on their audience and then apply it to speeches. So here's an example of the BBC News website in 1999. So you can see the main story there. Railtrack boss keeps his job, Railtrack's chief executive, and there's kind of a little bit repetitive there of who it is. And it's so busy around here. There's links everywhere. There's links off to other stories. There's all this side on the right with different panels and places to go. It's very, very copy heavy. The image is quite small. It's not a very inspiring image. Sorry, Gerald. But that's how the BBC News website looked 20 years ago. And then today, the top story, you can just immediately just see the huge difference, how that is just so much simpler, so much more pleasurable to look at. The image has gone on to the percentage the image takes up compared to before is just so much more. And actually everything about that image kind of helps to tell the story. You've got the Beatles there in the background, which shows to people who wouldn't recognize that he was in Liverpool. Then you've got the headline over here. There's nothing repetitive about what's happening. And then you've got some nice, simple, clear links off to the other stories and things that apply to us. What are the rules where I live? It's just so simple, and we would be far more likely to interact with that story than we would with that one. And then if we go to the Apple website, so this was the Apple website, I think in 1997. Again, very busy, links everywhere, copy everywhere, no really good imagery at all, really. There's nothing there that's going to pull you in as a user. And the Apple website today, here you go. Again, it's exactly the same thing. It's just so clear, so slick. Few words, it's all it needs. Tells you what it is. The picture does all the work. And then you've got the link to go and buy it. So So have a think about a recent transaction that you made online. And it could have been something you did like online banking, booking a trip or buying a new item. And think about what it was in that transaction that made it work so well. It probably did work well because everyone's kind of on top of this these days. Most of the time, you won't realize it, but the answer will be that it was simple, quick, and easy to follow. And that's what our audience want from our speeches. They want to be able to follow you easily. They don't want you to labor on the same point for too long. They don't want you to be repetitive. And they want it to be simple enough so that even if they do lose focus for a moment, it's intuitive and they can jump back in and that there are things to anchor them back in. So looking at a few things, a few areas that would help us to focus on when we speak or when we write speeches. I think the first thing to ask when we write a speech is what do you want to achieve? So if everyone mute themselves, I think somebody is unmuted at the moment. Thank you. So when you sit down to write a speech, I think the audience is the most important part. That's what you've got to think of primarily. But just before you do that, you need to work out what you want. We all give our speeches for our own reasons, which means that before we start giving our attention to the audience, we just got to be a little bit selfish and work out exactly what it is we want to achieve. So an online business, they might focus all their attention on creating a world-class experience for their customers. But before they do that, they'll have worked out exactly what they want to achieve, which will normally be sales. If you think of that Apple example that we just looked at, everything was geared towards the customer. Everything was made simple to make it as easy as possible for us. But before Apple set about doing that, before they set about creating that vision for us, they'd have been sure to have their own vision, which was to sell as many products as they can. So before you start writing, think about what you want the outcome of your speech to be. Do you want to sell something? Is it you want people to buy into an idea? Do you want to entertain them, make them laugh? Or maybe you want to inspire them into some change. But whatever that outcome is, be sure to know it, refine it, completely focus on it, and then start writing. And once you've done that, everything else should be with the audience in mind. Let's call it the AX, the audience experience. Next, don't send your audience down blind alleys. So now that you've worked out what you want from the speech, you need to make sure that you're not leading your audience away from that. Don't include anything that's going to take them away from what you want to achieve. Think of those early versions of the BBC and Apple websites we've just looked at. They were crammed full of different links, different stories, different routes for people to go away from where the business actually wanted them to go. So when we do speeches a bit like that first introduction I had, where I think there was just so many different things going on and descriptions and examples that was kind of like that first Apple website. There was just too much there. So when you finish writing a speech, go back through and identify any areas which feel like they might go off on a tangent or don't contribute to taking your audience exactly where you want them to go. And this doesn't mean taking out humorous asides or anecdotes which enhance the speech. I think our stories within speeches are like those big bold pictures that we now see on the websites, and they're more important than anything else. But I think they do need to be quite high level, quite simple, and geared precisely towards our message. So use stories, but don't go too in depth into stories, I would say. So if there's anything in your speech that could lead your audience down a blind alley or confuse them, just take it out. And don't. I've had it where I've written a speech and I've looked back and I realized something needs taken out, and it can be half of the speech or more. But don't worry about that. If you really want to work on a good speech, take it out and replace it with something simpler, and you'll find other things to talk about that will fill up the speech. But remove bits that don't quite fit. It's really important, I think. Next up is use simple language. So if we look at that opening of Ramona's again. So life will sometimes feel like a fight. The punches, jabs, and hooks will come in the form of challenges, obstacles, and failures. Yet, if you stay in the ring and learn from those past fights, at the end of each round, you'll still be standing. So you see how simple the language is that's used there. Is there any of that anybody can't understand or follow? And has it been overcomplicated with descriptive or flowery words? I don't think so. I think it's as simple as it could possibly be. And if you look at those examples of the websites again, so the Apple there, it couldn't be simpler. And we've got the, yeah, compared to that. So if you compare the two, how simple the language that's used there compared to, you know, things here talking about comprehensive update. Sure, we might understand all these words, but they're just so much more to try and think about, and people aren't prepared to do that these days. So when you're writing your speech, let me just go back. So I think when we're writing speeches, particularly if we are trying to put a lot of effort in, we might be tempted to start using elaborate language and long fancy words and complicated sentence structures. Imagine how intelligent it'll make us look. But our audience don't really care about how intelligent we're going to look, and they'd far rather listen to a speech filled with simple language and short sentences. And this isn't a case I've been asked, well, do you think we should dumb down our speech? I'm not saying that. It's just that the clearer the language we use, the more like an everyday conversation your speech is going to be. And that's what audiences find most engaging. I think your audience want to feel like you're having a conversation with them, not like you're reading them a book. Okay, next bit. Everything is intuitive and linear. So what would you think if we went onto the BBC website today and we clicked on that news story about COVID and you found a story about Brexit? Or you clicked buy on the Mac advert and it took you through to a page where you could buy an iPhone. It happens sometimes, doesn't it? It still happens in websites, and it's really annoying when we get to that situation. And again, it's the same with our speeches. If we want an audience to stay focused, we need to make sure that their journey through our speech makes complete sense to them. And we don't start by talking to them about how they can be still standing and then finish by telling them how they can stand their ground. The two phrases might sound similar, but they've actually got completely different meanings. And that's why I think particularly these contest speeches that we see doing really well, they'll have these foundational phrases like still standing. In Ramona's speech, the title was Still Standing, and she used that phrase, still standing, several times through the speech. And I think it gives the audience an anchor point, something that even if they do lose that focus for a moment, it's going to pull them back in. They know where they are. They realize, okay, yes, we just lost a line or two there, but yeah, we know what this is about and we're back. So you can use these foundational phrases, just simple phrases, to pull your audience back in. And I think talking about linear and again, sometimes people say, well, should we not have surprises in our speech then? Is that going to confuse an audience? And obviously not. Audiences love to be surprised during a speech. But I think to successfully pull off a surprise or a plot twist at the end of your speech, it's important that your audience don't feel lost at any other point. So yes, you might be working towards one surprise, but you're making sure that everything is clear enough so that when that comes, they've understood how you've got there. So when you're writing your speech, or at least when you're editing it, be sure to put yourself in the position of an average audience member. Think about how they might be feeling at every point during your journey. And are there any points where they could become confused with what you're saying? Sometimes you might take something out at the start of a speech that could have a knock-on effect at the end, and you might not realize until you deliver it, or you might not realize at all. So keep a tight focus on clarity, comprehension, and chronology within your speech. Really, really important. Okay, last section. Make your audience happy. So again, let's go back to the three examples that we've been looking at throughout. So this is the BBC website today. Now, is this geared more towards what the BBC want to tell us or towards us? Well, down here, particularly in the three links at the bottom, how will the news system work? That's what we would want to know, probably. Once we've read the main news story, that's for us. What are the rules where I live? Obviously, clearly for us to go in and probably pick whichever region we're in and find those rules. And then another news story. But yeah, that is definitely geared towards us, and we're going to come away from that feeling fairly satisfied if that's what we were interested in. With the IMAT one, again, the all-in-one for all, it's for us. Apple are not talking to us like that previous version where it was very kind of business-like and corporate. They're talking to us. They've worked out what they want, but now they're just talking to us. So I think when you've identified what you want from your speech, you then need to focus everything on that desired outcome with the audience. Yeah, so imagine if you went to a website to buy a holiday, say, and you saw book this holiday. You're all mute. And you saw book this holiday to ensure we meet our annual business targets, or stay at this hotel. We had such a great time there at our last company conference. Or when you reserve a holiday with us, we'll make sure you do exactly what we want you to do, and we'll take away all the choice. And of course, that wouldn't happen because your audience wants to know that you've thought about them. They want to know you care about their experience, and they don't want to feel intimidated or forced into adopting your viewpoint. So that's it, really. I would just say always put the audience experience at the heart of everything you do after you've worked out what your primary purpose is. And we've gone through a few examples of particular areas that we could look at today, but that could go on. And, you know, these internet companies do things called A/B testing, where you'll see different experience. You'll get different experiences of a site depending on what time of the day you click on it, and they'll be testing how you respond to each one. And again, you can do that with a speech, especially now we're online. You can go and give a speech at 4 clubs, and you can get all those responses in and use those evaluations. I suppose it's just that's what Toastmasters is. But yeah, think about your audience always and make things as simple and as clear for them as you can, no matter what type of speech you're giving. Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question, Dan.
Yes. We'll just stop this.
Hi.
Okay.
Yes,
sorry.
It's a bit of an odd question, maybe, but I'm wondering how the stuff you say about websites. I'm wondering if that's related to user experience or just fashion at the time. So, for example, if 20 years ago it had started with websites that had the bare minimum on screen, would we now be in an era where we have very busy screens? Is it just the way fashion works, or is it really user experience?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. I don't think it is just fashion, because working in that industry, I know how much effort they put into testing everything to within an inch of its life, and what's happened from 1999 to now has been a very slow kind of iterative process that's worked from that towards getting to the point where they're selling their products or getting their clicks or whatever they want to do in the best possible way. And you'll see it, you've seen it with Facebook and social networks. They're just constantly working on ways to keep you there more, and maybe that's kind of a bit of a darker, more negative side of it, but within a speech, again, obviously it's not Facebook. So I think thinking about the audience and keeping it simple, I wouldn't say that's fashionable. I think particularly with a speech, obviously with the internet over the last 20 years, things have changed. It was new. Speeches have been around a lot longer than that. And I think you could probably go back 40 years with speeches and you wouldn't find that very complicated speeches were doing better than simple ones. I think the simple ones would always have been. Yes, Suzanne?
So one of the things, so my question is quite similar. Those websites were constricted by the technology that was available and the bandwidth that was available in terms of, so imaging and definitely video wasn't available online 20 years ago. So they were kind of designed in a way that met the technology. And when I think about that in addressing an audience, I wonder, because you talked about keeping it simple and being careful about the language that you use and also being intuitive. I wonder how you would address the difference between giving a speech to like a professional organization where everyone's got a certain level of qualification and they all know, like, for example, if you were talking to an audience of UX engineers, you would address them in one way versus giving the same talk to people like GCSE students interested in learning about how websites are designed. Like how would that impact the speech?
Well, they're going to be different speeches because you're speaking to different groups, and I've spoken then about how you will cater for your audience. You'll think about what your audience are, and you've described 2 different audiences there. So of course they would be different speeches. But for me personally, yeah, you might be a corporate, very technological group of people who understand everything. But if someone comes out and
Is that me or Dan?
What's that?
Sorry, Dan, you broke up there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I don't know if that was mine occasion or yours.
I don't know. No, I think
Yeah.
it was mine. I think it would be mine. Let's try for another minute anyway. Yeah, so yeah, the speeches would be different, and then the way you would talk to the different groups of people would be different, but I would say they would still be simple and engaging and clear. And if you start going off to a technical group and going into really, really kind of heavy technical stuff, you'll lose them as quickly as you would lose the group of teenagers, I think, anyway.
Okay, I mean, that's where the part about keeping your audience happy makes a difference. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? If you can hear me still.
Can I ask you, Dan? It's about what audience want in a speech from you. You are assuming that they want this because you haven't surveyed your audience, and actually in Toastmaster meeting, you don't know who's coming, who's not coming, and what their inclinations and beliefs are. So really, you are trying to pitch your speech to some kind of an average Toastmaster audience, and then you believe that it would work. So this goes back to customer experience. So the customer experience for company websites probably is different because based on previous research, testing, and so on. But for Toastmaster speech, a 7-minute speech that you topic. I agree with you, simple language and the structure, the beginning and linear kind of an intuitive structure. But you don't know what audience would like most in that situation.
Yeah, sorry, Mustafa, I missed half of that because my connection's not great. I don't know if you can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, okay. So I know it was about different audiences and different Toastmaster audiences and kind of, working out what the average one would be. I think that's something that we can know, but if we go to, if we're a member of a club and we know, I don't think we need to know specifically who's going to turn up that week. I think we'll know what a certain group of people will be like. But I agree, you might go off and I went and gave a speech that did really, really well here in a competition, and I gave it in Canada, and it was just blank faces, and that wasn't Canadians' fault. That was it just didn't work for them. But I think it's a different thing. I think almost taking out that whether it's gonna apply and connect with your audience in an understanding way is probably something. It's a different side to what I've been talking about today. So, you might have, let's say a phone company like Vodafone, they'll have a specific group of people that they're targeting, which might be different to say 3 Mobile, who probably go for a younger crowd maybe. And that's kind of an overview. But then within that, once they do know who their audience are, those principles of keeping it simple and using simple language and giving people what they want still apply. So yeah, there's an extra level of thinking about what specific audience you're speaking to. And that's probably something separately that you might want to think about when you're putting your speech together. But once you've done that, I think everything else then applies. Thank you. Okay, so should we have another? Oh, go on, Angela. We'll have one more.
Yeah, hi Dan, thank you for that. Really, really helpful. I'm just curious, if you are using slides in a speech, I noticed in both the examples that you gave, they had the words on the left and the image on the right. Was that just coincidence, or is there something significant in the way you present that on a slide?
Yeah, possibly just coincidence. I mean, again, all these things are tested. I don't think I've ever come across anything where anybody said, yeah, you definitely need to have, you know, copy on the left and image on the right. I think that was probably just coincidence today. But again, these things do get tested, and there could well be something in that. I just don't know about that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. We are going to start with Linda Marie in 10 minutes, if that's okay, a 10-minute break, and we'll start at 8:10. So thank you.
Thank you for the amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Great tips. Thank you.
Hi, Dan.
Hello, you all right?
It's Mary Lou Wangchung. How are you?
Good, thank you. Nice you made it.
Mary,
So you can get the link.
Yeah.
Mary Lou, how are you, Mary Lou?
Hey, Linda. I am great.
Good to see you.
Superpower. Yes, it's great to see you, and I'm so glad and happy for you. You should
Thank you.
come and visit us again. Where are you? Are you here in North Carolina?
No, Dan flew me straight out to London. I'm in London. No, I'm in Durham. I'm in Durham, North Carolina.
Oh, well, Dan was one of our speakers last night. So, and I could, Dan, I don't know what happened, but I could get into the access unless you had sent me the link.
Oh, sorry. Well, you're here now. You're here for...
Yes, I am here, and I am so glad to see Linda Marie. Hi, everybody. Brunswick County Toastmasters Club. You should come and visit us again. Dan, you're coming to visit us next week, are you?
Next Tuesday, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful information in the chat, and people will pick it up.
Yes, I will. I'll just send you by.
Okay.
No, we got a lot. You were at our meeting last night. I didn't get your information.
Hey,
Did you
yeah.
put on the chat?
Yes, actually, I came to see. Daniel had invited me for the meeting yesterday, so I came just to see, because I'm also in the US, so the time just fits me. Yeah, but yeah, I'll send you my email address. Thank you so much.
Put it on the chat, please. That would
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry I had to leave, but yeah, I really enjoyed the meeting yesterday. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I was looking for you towards the end, and I said, oh wow, I missed Priya, and I wanted to find out what your feedback as far as.
Oh, okay. I will send you a message about that. Thank you. But as I said, I loved everything. The topics were especially really nice. Thank you.
The what?
The topics, the tabletop. Yeah. Yeah. And they're fun in every meeting, every Toastmaster meeting, right?
There's always something to learn, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll meet you at the chat.
Absolutely. Sure. I'll send you a message.
Mary Lou, what club are you from?
I am from the Brunswick County Toastmasters Club in North Carolina.
Oh, very cool.
Am I speaking to Elisa?
Yeah.
Elisa, where are you from?
Well, I currently reside in Puerto Rico.
Oh.
And I've started Toastmasters here in Spanish, but now with this online thing, it's just awesome that we can visit all over. So
yes, well, we have a member from Bermuda as
wow,
well.
that's awesome.
If you could send me your contact information, we meet every Tuesday, and it should be a good time for you because it's at 6 o'clock, and it would probably be about 7 o'clock, isn't it? Your time.
What time is it right now for you?
Right now, what time is it? It's 3:04.
Oh, okay. So we have the same time.
We have? Oh, super duper. Well, then please just send your contact information, and I'll just send you the link.
Sure, thanks.
Wonderful. Okay.
And Shivpriya and Priya, nice to see you guys again.
Thank you.
How are you after all those hospital visits and parachute accidents and
Fortunately, it was indeed a long evening. I think Michael was the one who got affected of all. He got his phone stolen, then he started playing.
just kind of went downhill from there for him, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
You guys belong to the same club? Priya?
Sorry?
Do you belong to the same club as Daniel?
No, actually, I'm not in this district at all. Since Daniel is there and since my sister is also there in the district, Shivpriya. So I have been attending clubs here, meetings here. I am from District 84, Central Florida facilitator. So if anyone fancies a visit to Florida, please send me a text or send a text to Daniel either, and I can give you the information. One of us can.
Right. Well, we have the same time, so it's great.
Yes.
When's your next meeting, Priya?
In 3.5 hours.
Oh my.
No, Wednesdays are like, and in between this meeting and my club meeting, I have work meetings. So it's always going to be like Wednesdays are meeting days for me. Yeah. That's why I had to run from your meeting last week as well, in between. Yeah.
Priya, did you attend the 2016 convention in DC?
No, I didn't, but I am in DC right now. Just came for a visit, just to travel, have a little solo travel out there with social distancing. But no, I didn't attend any convention.
Okay, just checking.
Were you there?
Yes, I met a Priya.
Oh. No.
Okay.
I didn't.
Hi everyone. I haven't had a chance to introduce myself. So I thought I would say hello because I got some chat messages from you. So I am from Epsom Speakers, which is very close to London in the UK. And I have had a long break, and this is one actually the first meeting in like ages probably. So I'm happy to be back and see the energy.
Nice to see you, Kat. It's good to have you here.
Quite a few people from USA. Is there anybody from UK here? So,
Yeah, there are members of the club here.
okay.
Or
Mustafa, no, you're not a member yet, are you, Mustafa? You haven't.
Yes, also
No.
me.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, Antonella, how are you?
Me too.
I'm very good, thank you. How is everyone? Hello. Lovely to meet everyone. So yeah, I am from the club Society Speakers. Yeah, I'm in London, even if I am Italian. So yeah, but I live here.
Are you back here now, Antonella? Back, yeah.
Sorry?
You're back here in London?
Yes, I am, yeah. Unfortunately. No, I'm joking.
Okay, 2 more minutes. We'll get going.
Wow, we have people across the world: Bahamas, Mexico, Hawaii, Florida,
North Carolina. Yeah, remember North Carolina.
I'm going to be driving down North Carolina this weekend, so I'm gonna see you all there. I'm just kidding. If only it was not COVID, you know.
Yeah, next Tuesday.
Okay.
Which part of North Carolina are you driving to?
Charlotte, Greensboro, Raleigh, all of them. I don't know. My plans are little, you know, it just is, I make the plans as I go, that's all.
Yeah, we're down the coast where the beaches are. So
Okay.
that would be about 3 hours drive. If you're going down the coast, give me a call.
You
Okay,
said
absolutely.
the right word. I think you said the right word. Priya loves beaches. Often she just drives.
The beaches.
The beaches. She
For
loves
sure.
beaches.
Well, we're still warm enough here that you can go and swim.
Okay.
Okay, I think if Linda's here, we're good to go. Yes, she is. Good. Good. Right, so welcome back. Hope you had a nice break, and nice for people who stayed around. I noticed it was mostly the UK people that seemed to go make the tea, and everyone else stayed. Anyway, can we all now, before I introduce Linda Marie, can we all just remember to go back on mute, please? Especially you, Mustafa. Come on. Yeah. And so, Linda Marie, she was the first runner-up in the 2020 World Championship of Public Speaking, which happened just last month, which means she's basically the second best speaker in the world. She's an inspirational public speaker, a certified experiential trainer, and an ICF certified ontological coach. And she's going to be speaking to us today about presenting magically, adding magic to our speeches, tips from the top. So can we give a big round of applause, please, to Linda Marie Miller.
Can you hear me? Okay, let me know then. Good, perfect. So it would be best if you put it on speaker view for this particular presentation so that you can see what's behind me. So first of all, I want to thank you all for being here. I know you have lots of other things you could be doing, and I am truly honored that you have decided to spend 45 plus minutes with me. I promise to make it worth your while. I haven't always been a champion. People say, you're a born public speaker. Well, I'm going to write a book one day about the speaking horrors of Linda Marie. I'm going to share one of them with you to start off, to kind of get your expectations a little bit low for today. And also, because I don't think I'll ever do that poorly again, maybe you'll see me in a good light. So I'm going to move this to the side, and I'm going to have you envision 27-year-old Linda Marie. Now, I'm not going to tell you how many decades ago that was, but it was quite a while. And my boss had tagged me to give a presentation in front of a large group of finance staff that had flown in from all over the United States, from our subsidiaries. I was excited. I had had a previous mishap with index cards, so I memorized my presentation. Stayed up late the night before, remembering every line, every slide, every number. Exhausted at about 1 o'clock in the morning, I decided it was time to get to bed. I shimmied out of my pants, jumped in the shower, hung up my coat so that everything would be laid out, ready for me to jump back in that same suit in the morning and get on to the stage, which I did. Walked out to the middle of the stage, took my powerful speaker stance that I knew I needed to take, and kind of looked down to assess where I was, making sure I was grounded. When I noticed, right about here, there was like a little lump. I thought, oh, it's a wrinkle in my pants, and I tried to straighten it out, but it wouldn't go away. And immediately, my mind turned into a cassette player in reverse. zzz, to the night before, where I sat on the edge of the bed after I shimmied out of my suit, laid my pants to the side. Fast forward to the morning, get dressed, put my pants back on. The night before, I had shimmied out of not only my pants, but also my little white undies. And when I pulled my pants back on the next morning in a hurry, they were stuck in the leg of my trousers. I knew they were there. And I know some of the women in the audience right now are going, I've done that before. I stood there not knowing what to do, but I decided, the professional that I was, it was just going to stay right there, and I was going to magically present for these 47 senior financial people. The more I moved around on the audience, on the stage, though, it started to work its way down. And I could feel it now, every movement I made. So eventually, when it got to my knee, I started using the stage like this. My use of the stage up here was more leaning. Back here, living in fear, but every single movement I made, those little white undies kept sliding down until eventually, right there in center stage, after they had gone past the knee mark, they fell out the leg of my pants. Imagine 27-year-old Linda Marie on a stage with 47 senior finance people who had flown in for this presentation. All of a sudden, their eyes dropping to the stage. All that I could do was pick my leg up and put it on top of my brilliantly white undies on the stage. Finish my speech, and in the end, pick them up, smiling, and said, and if you want to know how I did that magic trick, you can see me later. That, ladies and gentlemen, was what I would call a speaker fail. And I've had more than one of those. So I haven't always been a magnificent speaker. And Dan, I'm going to correct you when you said I am second place in the world, number 2 in the world. I am the number 1 female in the world. That's the way I like to look at it. Mike Carr is the number 1 man. I'm the number 1 female. So what I'm going to share with you today, as I bring this back into view, is not going to be the typical tips of speech writing, although I've got a lot of those. I'm going to share with you some things that you never would learn in Toastmasters. Things that over the course of the last 20 years as a public speaker, I've learned about how to present magically. The very first thing, before you pick up a pen to paper writing a speech, surrender to your purpose. Why are you on this planet? Don't enter a competition till you figure it out. Let every speech you give exude what your purpose is in life. My purpose is, and I realized this at 40 years old, hopefully you'll realize it before that if you're under 40. My purpose in life is to have people get that they matter. That's it. It seems like something simple, but it drives every speech I give. It drives every conversation I have with my son. It drives every conversation I have with the cashier at the supermarket, because I know that's my purpose. Some people call it your ikigai. There are whole books on this. It's the intersection of that which the world needs. You're lucky if you can also get paid for it, and that which you love and that which you're good at. I happen to be pretty good at having people get that they matter. In my day job, there isn't anybody that doesn't want to come work for me. They would take less money to come to work for me because I pay them in them getting that they matter every day. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what does the world need from me? I really don't have anything to offer. What is the difference you make in the world? There's a little girl named Melissa. I'm going to tell you about Melissa. Melissa was born with a rare chromosomal abnormality called monosomy 10q syndrome, trisomy 5p syndrome. Melissa couldn't speak. Melissa couldn't walk until she was 12, and then she walked with a walker. Melissa couldn't write her name. Melissa couldn't count to 10. Melissa was a human being because she couldn't do much. In this picture, Melissa is 18 years old watching Barney on the television, her favorite pastime. I happen to have the benefit of being Melissa's mother. And I thought often during the course of her life, what difference is she making in the world? I surely knew she made a difference in my world. When I was pregnant with her, I made a list of all the things me as a strong woman was going to teach this little girl. And I always look back and think, someone up there was looking down at me saying, you think you know anything? I'm going to send you a teacher. And he sent me this child who had 32 surgeries by the age of 10, who spent most of her time in a hospital. What difference could she have made in the world? When Melissa passed away a week before her 20th birthday, I found out. I had a memorial service for her. Thousands of people came. The word spread. Every speech pathologist, every teacher she had had for the last 20 years drove from states away. Who also showed up was the very first caregiver she had. Now, Melissa was difficult to find someone to care for because she had so many needs. So a woman called me and she said, I don't have any experience taking care of a special needs baby, but if you'll teach me. And I did, out of desperation. A few years later, I moved to another state, lost touch with Cheryl and Will Stark, the family that took care of Melissa while I was working. Into Melissa's memorial service, I learned the difference Melissa had made in the world. When Cheryl and Will Stark told me that Melissa had touched their hearts so delicately and so profoundly that they went on to adopt 6 severely handicapped children, raised them into adulthood. They came to honor the human being that had given them and showed them what their purpose in the world was. So never think that you don't have a purpose that can change the world. That's number one, find your purpose. The next thing is surrender to experimentation. Be willing to look like a fool. Learn comedy. Go out on the skinny branches of life when you're giving a speech. Give a speech in your pajamas. Give a speech in your birthday suit in front of a mirror. Just experience it differently. And the reason I encourage you to surrender to experimentation is because when you own your purpose, it is no longer about you. In fact, the speech I'm giving you today, the conversation I'm having with you today, isn't even for you. It's for all the people you're going to touch and who they're going to touch. I want to be with you in a way today that has you be different at the end of my speech, to go out in the world and be different. And as a result of that, change the hearts and minds of other people, touch them in a way where they get that they matter or they stand up and own their purpose. Color outside the lines, no matter what it looks like. Be willing to look like a fool. I coach a coaching program called Life of No Regrets. And sometimes my coachees will say, I could never do what you're telling me you want me to do this week. I give them what I call a quest. Handle it, let me know, and when we coach again next week, you're going to tell me how it worked out. They can accept or not accept the quest, but I promise them that if they follow through on the quest I give them, not only will they be changed in the moment, their lives will move in a different direction. But often people say, I can't do that. There's no way I could do that. One woman I coached had kind of a low opinion of herself. I said, you get to go to the mall in a bathing suit and stand in the food court with your arms wide, ready to get a hug. She was very self-conscious. She was very uncomfortable with her body image. And she said, I can't do that. I could never do that. And I said, well, it all depends on your intention, because really, it's all about intention. I told her, I said, you don't think you can do that. But if the phone rang and you answered your cell phone and someone had kidnapped your child and was going to put a bullet in their head if you didn't get down to the food court in a bathing suit with your arms open wide, how long would it take you to get to the food court? To which she responded, I'm on my way. The only thing that prevents you from being your magnificent self and being willing to color outside all the lines is your crystal clear intention to break through whatever it is that has you keep from doing it. And you will never be a magical presenter unless you are willing to look like a fool. Until you're willing to let the white underpants fall out of your pant leg, you will never be a magical presenter. Own it, be it, and color outside the lines. The next thing is surrender to the beautiful gift of feedback. I love feedback. And I don't mean that sandwichy kind where you got the bread that's, you're doing a great job. And hey, let me tell you something that you might want to work on. And oh, but you're great. Go on ahead and be magnificent. Before you get feedback, before you give your next speech, I want you to write down the 50 greatest things about you and your speech. You will have practiced it. You will have memorized it, maybe, maybe not. Write down the 50 most amazing things that you know about your speech and about yourself and how you present. And then put all that aside. Because if you are about presenting magically and being the most magnificent presenter, speaker you can be, it's about what you don't know. It's about what you don't know that you don't know that you don't know that you don't know. When I am standing for feedback, I stand like this. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Don't tell me the good stuff because, and I've had this happen, especially now that I have a trophy. My own club, someone will go to give me feedback and someone else will interrupt them and go, well, that was okay for me. I wasn't bothered by that at all. But the point is, if you want to have the greatest impact in the world, you want to go for 100% of the people in the room. You don't want to discount that one person. You want to go for 100% of the judges. I didn't succeed. Must have been a judge holding out on me in that contest. I'll do better next time. Be a demand for feedback. All of it. Is my hair too blonde? Is the suit ill-fitting? Am I speaking too loud? Do I sound too bossy? Am I too quiet? Am I too, whatever it would look like. Be a demand for feedback. And after you get feedback, there's only one response. Write this down. Someone could tell me that was the worst speech they've ever heard, and my response would still be the same. Thank you for caring enough about me to be honest with me. And I come from a place of curiosity about how I can do better, not getting to be right about how I already have it down. Surrender to the gift of feedback. Next, develop a powerful speaker presence. And yes, that's me. That was me in high school. Your speech begins before you open your mouth. The minute you step on a stage, you are speaking. The minute the camera goes on, your speech has begun. And I'm going to tell you what I use, both on a stage and with the camera, that sets me up to have a powerful speaker presence. So I'm going to tell you what I do. This will take some practice if this is something you want to do. I'm going to give you the steps, and then you can go practice it or watch this video again and hear it again. So I walk out to the center of the stage or wherever it is that I'm going to stand. Now you've seen other speakers get up there and they're being introduced and they're moving, or they start talking and their hands, and they, people don't quite know what to do with their hands. They just, and they're moving. Some, you even see some doing this. I saw this in some of the contests. It's because they are not grounded. The very first thing I do when I get out on stage is I immediately envision that I am a marionette. If you, don't know if you know what a marionette is, but it's those puppets with the strings attached. But all I envision is the string coming out of the top of my head is pulled tight, pulled tight. And when it pulls tight, it elongates your spine. It puts your shoulders in a relaxed, not up here because it's pulling you up. You're kind of just dangling. And automatically what will happen is your feet will not be doing this. It can't, because you're being pulled up. Your arms will fall relaxed by your side. They have nowhere else to go. That is the first step, the stance I make, and I envision it immediately within the first second when I get on the stage. The second thing I do is I take a breath in through my nose. And when I'm breathing in, I find a focal point on the back of the wall, the very back wall. And while I'm focusing on that point, I let my peripheral vision widen. I become aware of what's going on over here, what movement's happening over here. While I'm looking at a focal point called a camera, I'm looking at all your faces. I can see what's going on the screen. In an audience, if I am looking at that, I will be able to even sense something going on behind me. Breathe in, find my focal point. At the same time, I bring my attention to my power center. For women, and sometimes it's different, for most women, your power center is right here. For men, it's in this area, the area of your heart. And I turn on a beam of light internally in my power center. And I actually envision it getting brighter and brighter and brighter. And as I breathe out through my mouth, I turn the beam on that peripheral view of my audience. Now, I call this is something actually, if you read about it, this is something that is used by sports athletes that are some of the best. As they're dribbling down the basketball court, they're not looking at this face and looking at the hands of this person and the feet of this person and looking behind them. They are coming down the court and they have what I call a panoptic glaze of awareness. They know what's happening all around them. And from that place, they know what to do next, whether it's to shoot here or to pass here or to dodge somebody that's coming from them here that they see in their peripheral vision. It's the same way with an audience. If you see through your peripheral vision, people over here starting to check their cell phone, starting to check their emails, watch cute cat videos, you better shift. You better do something different, even if you're giving a speech. Powerful stance, that's my secret. Takes no more than 10 seconds, and the timer doesn't begin until you open your mouth or you make your first gesture. Speak like it matters. I bet most of you know this picture. This happened in, I think it was London in 2017. A man was going to jump off a bridge, climbed over, going to kill himself, had nothing else to live for. A passerby saw him, came over, grabbed him. Another passerby grabbed him. They spoke with each other and developed around him, wrapping ropes around him, wrapping belts around him, and gave the most important speech they would ever give in their lives. A speech that would have this other human being get that they mattered. When you open your mouth, you are speaking in a way that will make a difference in the world. Even if you're just saying hello to the person at the grocery store, passing by, give someone a glance and just saying hi. How are you today? I love that outfit on you. That's a great color. Whatever you can be in the world, know that when you speak, it is powerful. It can change the world. And in this case, it changed this man's life. Sometimes when you speak, it is a matter of life and death. Another instance of it being a matter of life and death. My husband, a few years ago, had a freak accident with some pool chemicals, and within 2 weeks' time, needed a complete double lung transplant. Flew him off to Duke Medical. I arrived by car, and when I got there, this was his room. This is how they had him set up. And the doctors came in and told me, we can't transplant him because we have this thing called survival rates here at Duke, and we have the best survival rates in this country, and we don't think he's going to survive it, so we can't bother with him. The next time I spoke with those doctors the following morning was a speech. It was a speech that would enroll them in not only being willing to, but seeing that they had no choice but to transplant my husband. It was the most important speech I ever gave in my life, and they transplanted him on Thanksgiving Day 5 years ago. Every time you speak, speak like it matters. Be yourself in the speech. Don't do a speech. One of the things that made me crazy in this speech competition, and it was the first speech competition I'd been in, so I'm not all that experienced, was on the way up, I saw people giving perfect speeches. Not an not an no slip ticks. They remembered every word. Strong beginning, a closing that wrapped back around, 3 clear parts. They referred to Toastmasters. They had the correct number of views. They had humor every 1 to 2 minutes, at least 2 pieces of humor. All of the recipe that's designed to get you to the top. They didn't talk of anything on the news. They didn't talk about politics. They didn't talk about religion. They obeyed all the rules. And they gave perfect speeches. But they were doing their speech. They weren't being their speech. When I coach people that are speaking, I tell them, if you want someone to remember your speech, and if you're in a speech contest and there are 8 contestants and you draw the number 1 slot, historically in Toastmasters, your chances of winning are very low, because by the time the judges have heard 8 speeches, they don't even remember what you said. It's because you're speaking to their heads. You're speaking into their memory, in their brain. That is not accelerated learning. There's a whole line of neuro-linguistic programming that I do a workshop in, where I teach people how to reach people in a way that they will never forget you. And it's never speaking through their ears into their head. It's speaking into their emotion center. If you hit your audience in their emotion center, it goes to the brain, but a different part of the brain. And they will remember you, and they will remember your speech, certainly past 7 other speeches, certainly 7 months later, 7 years later. In order for that to happen, you have to be your speech. Now, if you're giving a humorous speech, laugh at yourself, get the audience laughing with you. If you're angry, don't say, oh, that really made me mad. Be mad! If you're remembering an incident that touched your heart, be willing to go there. I give a speech called, I Can't Go Where You Won't Take Me. If you won't go there to that emotional moment that you're trying to land with me, if you won't go there, how do you expect me to go there? Forget about what you look like. I have given speeches where I'm sobbing by the end of it. I have given speeches where I want to throw something. Be your speech, and people will remember you forever. The last thing I'm going to tell you is invest in yourself. You're in Toastmasters. You didn't join Toastmasters to win contests. I know I didn't. You joined Toastmasters, I'm guessing, so that you could learn how to more effectively use your voice. And I'm sure it wasn't just to talk to yourself. It's to make a difference in the world. Make a difference at your job. Make a difference in your family. Make a difference in your community. Make a difference in the world. And that's certainly worth investing in yourself. Now, you've taken the first step. You're in Toastmasters. If you're a guest here, sign up before you walk out the door. Virtual door, that is. You will learn in Toastmasters how to be a speaker. You will get the practice that you need. So invest in yourself. And here's an opportunity now that we're in the virtual world. Leave your club, not permanently, just for the night. Go visit another club. Go visit 10 other clubs. In fact, that wild experimentation you want to do, go do it there. That way, if it doesn't work out so well, your home club hadn't heard anything about it. What happens in Toastmasters stays in Toastmasters. Use the opportunity to travel to the Middle East and give a speech. Travel to Australia. Envision very much different audiences than the one that you're with week in and week out. Find someone that rocks your world as a speaker. Zig Ziglar was someone that I adored. If he was alive today, he'd have millions and millions of Facebook followers. I followed him. I learned from him. I watched him because I wanted to learn and emulate the kind of speaker that he was in the world. Find someone that is your Zig Ziglar. Reach out to them. You'd be shocked at how many speakers in the world love a following. They even will have a conversation with you. Find someone that you want to learn from them. You are worth it. If you hang around me long enough, I'll brainwash you into believing in yourself and knowing that you can be anything. You can join my speaker page on Facebook, Linda Marie Miller. You can sign up at lindamariemiller.com if you want to be on my email list. If you want to connect with me, send me an email. If you want to send me your next speech that you do, give me a holler. I'll give you some of that non-sandwich feedback. Be a way in the world that has people get that they matter. Be your speeches, experiment wildly, and you will change the world. I'll leave you with this slide because these are some of the offerings that I have. In the event you want to reach out to lindamariemiller.com or send me an email and you want to get on my mail list, I'd be glad to have you join me. And lastly, One Shared Humanity. In exchange for speaking today, I said, I get to plug One Shared Humanity. One Shared Humanity fell out of the 57,000 people that saw that final speech I gave at the competition. My phone blew up, my cell phone blew up, my computer blew up, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything. And it has become a movement called One Shared Humanity. And in closing, I'm going to tell you the 4-line poem that is the basis for One Shared Humanity. It's a poem called Outwitted. And it goes like this. He drew a circle to keep me out, a heretic rebel thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took him in. One Shared Humanity draws a circle around all of humanity. We have courageous conversations. We eliminate the walls that separate people, whether it's by race or religion or gender. Come join us at One Shared Humanity on Facebook or on the webpage. Thank you so much. And I'm going to take questions. So if you have questions, I would like you to just unmute yourself. Is that okay, Dan? If they just unmute themselves? And you can ask me anything. You can ask me about the contest. You can ask me about the content of this. You can ask me where I got this lovely necklace ensemble, if you'd like. Whatever, nothing's off the table. Ask away.
I have a question.
Yes.
How did you first?
What is your name?
Elisa Schneider from Puerto Rico.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So how did you first figure out that you enjoyed public speaking and get into that role?
Well, I showed you that picture from when I went into high school. I was a drum major. I realized when I was drum major that I like to be out in front of people, whether it was a whistle in my mouth or leading the band. So I've always had that kind of persona where I cared about, I wanted to be a leader of people, right? I wanted to lead people. Over the course of from high school until I was in my early 40s, I realized what that really means. For the first 40 years of my life, I chased after every kind of diploma, every kind of certificate, every kind of symbol of worth. Look at me, look at all this. But when I hit the age of 42, I had an epiphany. I had a midlife crisis. I had an awakening. And I realized, I took a hard look in the mirror and I said, the only person I'm making a difference for in the world is me and my bank account. And it woke me up. And I said to myself, this is not how I want to live the rest of my life. So for me, it was at 42. But I knew I wanted to make a bigger difference in the world. And I knew.
Thank you so much for sharing.
The way to get there was through speaking. Who's next? Come on. Give me some feedback.
A great presentation. This is Mustafa here.
Mustafa, how are you?
Yeah, hi, not too bad. I heard you give a wonderful speech, and I did put you, I was doing my own evaluation, at the speech contest, and I put you in the top 3. And so there you are. So I wished you were in the first place, but never mind. You know, this happens. It was a powerful, morally so strong. You know, it's just beyond kind of it just blew me off, to be honest. I mean, it was so morally strong and given from your heart, as you say, be your speech. So you did it there, really. But the question that I was going to ask you, be yourself and speak to the emotion of the people. What do you suggest? How we could work on that? You know, how we develop that kind of attitude, or how do we develop that muscle, if you like?
Yeah, that's a very good question. But first I want to tell you about not being in first place. 57,000 people watched that speech stream. And almost half of them contacted me afterwards. Now I got some hate mail too, not gonna lie. But that was the win. That was the win. And I'll tell you this, when you speak, if you're going after a trophy, and that's all, you can buy. I got a beautiful trophy. It came in the mail last week. I love it. I can go buy that trophy. I can have it engraved. I could have it say world champion. It doesn't even have to say second place for like 25 bucks. The win is touching and opening the hearts and minds of people in your audience. I won. I was first place. And I'll tell you, I'll go ahead and give you a sneak peek. I'm going to enter next year again because I have more messages. The title, I'm going to tell you the title of my speech. It's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And the premise of my speech, you might remember it next year. If I make it that far, who knows, is what if we changed the definition of millionaire? And it had nothing to do with money, but that the real definition of a millionaire is someone who has indirectly or directly touched the hearts and minds of another human being. 1 million, 2 million, heck, who wants to be a billionaire? That's the win in life. So to your question, it's a great question, because when you are speaking to an audience, your audience is constantly your feedback machine. If it's on a screen, you can see the faces if you've got it on gallery view. If you're in an audience, like I said, if someone is scrolling through cute cat videos, that's feedback for you. That's not feedback for them. That's feedback for you. So this is what I do. If I am speaking on a stage, and this is what I coach people to do, you have to have all the tools in your toolbox. And then you have to be willing to shift. If your audience isn't getting your message, it's because you're not delivering the message. You're not landing the message. Every time I go on a stage, I stand in the place that says, if it's to be, it's up to me. It isn't up to, and I heard this a lot in the speech contest. Well, the judges, who knows what the judges want. Oh, the judges were off this time, or, that was a best speech ever and it should have won. And no, that's your feedback. And if you stick to, you did it right, you're probably going to come back and give that same type of speech the same way next time. And you might be coming back for years before you get on the podium. Be open to the feedback that you're getting, even in the moment with your audience. And be willing to shift. Have different endings to your speech. Have different middles to your speech. Check in with yourself to see if you're really being it or if you're just doing it. That's my advice to you. Have tools in your toolbox and be willing to shift just like that. If you have to shift over and over and over again, that's what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a question, Linda.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much for that speech. I love every moment of it. Just want to actually
you brought us something that was really relevant to know, identifying who I am, because sometimes we do have our speech and we're not quite sure how to bring in our values and our belief in there and just making that difference, that purpose. I want to ask you, how do you find your topics? How do you find your topic speeches? And just one feedback I have for you. I showed that before you go, this page here that you've got here, the one before that I wasn't able to see it, and I suppose that's because you're using the screen. But yeah, I would have wanted it to be a little bit more bigger. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Thank you for that feedback. So how do I decide what I'm going to give speeches on? That's a great question. So I never start with the speech. I never go through and go, oh, okay, here are my speeches. Here's a list of things. Okay, hey, that would be funny. Or, hey, that would be impactful. Or, hey, that's a sad story. Maybe somebody will feel sorry for me or something. I don't do that. I have a life. I'm 62 years old, and I have a life with an amazing bank of experiences, from travel to tragedy, from 3 husbands to a magnificent career. I have a lot of stories that I can pick from. And sometimes I just sit and write stories. Oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. But I don't write speeches from that list. When I'm going to give a speech, thinking about my audience and thinking about the venue, I ask myself the following question. How do I want the audience to be different at the end of the speech? And as a result of them being different, what will they be doing different in their lives? If the speech I gave at the finals, I thought about my audience. I turned on the news. I know what's happening here in the United States and all over the world. And I said, I want the world to be different. I want people to be different. Specifically, I want white privileged people to be different and wake up. And because of them being different at the end of a 7-minute speech, think about it. 7-minute speech, and thousands of privileged white people searched me out and found me.
Absolutely.
To tell me I had opened their heart and their mind to who they were being in the world. And as a result, they are now being different in the world. They are doing different things in the world. So whether I'm speaking to a group of engineers, if I'm speaking to a group of people and what I want to do is I want them to be happy, and I want them to leave and forget about COVID-19 for the next 4 hours after that, then I might get up and try to do a humorous speech. I could never live up to Dan Magill, but I can try. I start with how I want people to be different. And then I say, that's how I want them to be. What stories in my world, what way of being in my world, what vulnerabilities can I access in my life and within me that might have that be a possibility for someone? Now, like I said, I didn't reach everybody. I got some hate mail. Most of it from Oklahoma, by the way. I don't know what that's about. But that's where I start. And everybody has stories in their life. And if you're willing to be vulnerable, like when you think about it, the speech that I gave, most people, there were people that said, why would you say that to the world? Why would you tell on yourself like that? It's because by sharing the most vulnerable parts of ourselves and sharing who we are in the world, that we can touch other people. I'll tell you this too. People, 99.9% of the people in the world, I think, walk around like they don't matter. Like they're not good enough, they're not smart enough, they're not pretty enough. From the CEO down to the receptionist, everybody's walking around with the fraud syndrome. So we may as well just speak our inner hidden truths, and in doing so, give other people permission to speak theirs. Imagine the world we could create from that place. And thank you for that question.
Hi, Linda. I have a question.
Yes.
Whenever I'm trying to write an ISC, an International Speech Contest, there are two major challenges I face. Number one, when I get extremely involved with the story, when I get emotional, I am not able to articulate with impact because somewhere that emotions, they take my delivery. That is the first challenge. The second challenge is when I share some deep stories, there could be multiple interpretations or there could be multiple lessons that people could derive. Somewhere I feel I find it difficult to bring them into one direction or one purpose of the speech because there's a good chance that they might actually interpret something else from the speech. So how do I navigate through those challenges?
Well, here's the thing. What people get is the message you're giving. So when you say some people are getting the wrong message, no, that's the message you're giving. So you get to be different or do different or write different or choose different words. There's a whole, there's something called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It is absolutely imperative to study neuro-linguistic programming if you want to write the most impactful speech that you can write. And it's almost like mind mojo. You can direct what people are thinking and feeling by words that you use. You can reach a greater percent of your audience if you use particular words. So there are all kinds of tricks for that. That if you want to know, reach out to me and I'll share some of them with you. But if they're not getting it, the message, then it's not what you're giving. As far as your emotion goes, I'll give you two tricks. So when you're practicing your speech, now this is not when you're in front of an audience. When you're practicing your speech and you get to that emotional part and you're feeling that emotion well up in you, do this. Continue your speech, but do this. There is a neurological inability for something to happen when you're doing that. For you to be afraid, for you to feel strong emotion, and for your mind to run away with itself. If you're ever in a moment where you're stressed out or your mind is just running and you can't calm down, just do that for 30 seconds. Do it fast to start with and then slow down. I can do it like this now and I can clear my mind. Do that while you're giving your speech, because what you're doing is you're giving your right brain, left brain, you're training it into a certain state while you are giving that speech. There's another trick I'll give you is while you're giving your speech in front of a mirror, do this. Put your thumb out and your finger out like this. You guys see that thumb and finger? And then alternate. Thumb, little finger, thumb, little finger, thumb, little finger, right? Practice it. It's difficult to do because it requires both sides of your brain being engaged at the same time, where your logic centers are, where your emotional centers are. If I had to practice, sometimes when I gave that speech, when I gave my experience speech, which is the speech that I gave at the semifinals, when I get to talking about my daughter saying, Mama, I mean, I'm going to cry right now. I would be on the floor. I had to practice that speech over and over again while I was engaging both sides of my brain to be able to control the amount of emotion so I wouldn't let it fall away from me. You want enough of it to come up, but you also don't want them to have to carry you off the stage. But never be afraid of being vulnerable. Never be afraid of crying in a speech. I look at it this way. From the age of 15 till the age of 42, I never shed one tear. I was a strong woman. My first husband wanted to leave. Go ahead. Don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out. I don't need you. I'm not going to let you in, because I had being vulnerable as being a doormat. How many women in the audience see being vulnerable as being a doormat? Doormat over here, powerful woman over here. Here's the secret. A vulnerable woman is the most powerful creature on the face of the earth. A vulnerable man, even more so. If you will allow yourself to be vulnerable, especially on a stage the size of a 747, you will own the world. And that's the advice I give to you. Don't be afraid. Don't move away from the vulnerability. Don't move away from whatever's welling up inside of you. Just use some neuro-linguistic kind of tricks to control it while you're practicing your speech. Thank you for that question. That's a great question.
Thank you so much, Linda, for answering.
I have a question.
Oh.
Can I go ahead?
Oh, I can't see you. I don't know who you are. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a question. Firstly, I love the fact that you're already planning to enter next year. But I wanted to ask, when you receive feedback, like specific to the contest, so I think you mentioned some of it earlier, like, use a three-part story, or use the word you a lot more. Does that conflict with some of the other advice you've given us already?
All of it. All of it.
And what do you do if you then want to go on and win?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Winning isn't about the rules. Winning isn't about the winning. In fact, you can go see it on YouTube. This is my first speech. I've only been a Toastmaster for a few years, so I didn't know there were the gods of speaking. The 4 champions from the past, they all get together and they hash through this. They do kind of like the sportscaster broadcast sports wrap up of the contest, and you can find it out on YouTube. That's Darren LaCroix and Mark Ed Tate and Mark Brown, the 4 of them. They're the gurus of the world of public speaking. They went through all of the speeches and they gave their feedback. And they didn't hold back. I mean, that's what these guys do. They tell it like it is. First of all, they all had me in first place. Yeah. But they pointed this out, which was true. This is what they pointed out. I had no humor in my speech. I had no gestures in my speech. My gestures were the cards. I didn't have a 3-part speech. I never have a 3-part speech. I use a mechanism in my speeches that I call the pivot. You're going along, da, 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 and then bam, what? It's just something I do. I use it for impact. I used it in both those speeches. For my experience, for my life of no regrets, it was, the noun to the verb, and it's like, oh, that's a different. And in mine, I wanted to hit people, and I wanted to give 2 speeches at once. I wanted to give the internal speech and the external speech. Now, in feedback, sometimes people said, well, and I had the cards on a easel, and I would do this, No, I did get feedback going, that doesn't work. It has to be right in front of you. Great feedback. Someone said, forget the cards. Just do this on the second thing you want to say. Well, to me, now I took the feedback and I thanked them for it. Thanked them for caring enough about me to be honest with me. But when I was with that, it felt more like I knew what was going on inside of me and I was keeping it a secret. Not that I was blind to it. So I took the feedback and I didn't use it. You can welcome all feedback, but not use it. And I guarantee you, I avoided all the rules. First of all, don't talk about anything on the news. Well, there you go. I never thought I'd win. I never thought I'd be on the podium. My win was that when they streamed it, they couldn't take it back and the message was out. If the people that keep going back year after year after year are going back, paying bunches of money to prior champions for coaching, doing all of the right things, and they keep not winning. They might be second a couple times, they might be third, they might be in the finalists, they might just make it to semifinals, and they can't figure out what's wrong. What's wrong is they're thinking it's about the rules, and there's only one rule. Have people at the end of your speech be different, feel different, do different, hit their emotion center. I could have been in the first spot in the speaking order. I'm pretty sure those judges would remember it. I still have people, at least 50 people a week, who have been looking for me that finally find me. There are a lot of Linda Marie Millers, I guess, on Facebook. And they want to know, they want to be in that speech. They want to know about that speech. They want to make a difference in the world too. They're in another country, and it's not about black and white, but it's about ethnic differences or tribal differences. It's being the world. And here's the thing, if you forget the rules and you follow the secrets I'm giving you, you are going to win. You're going to win straight to the top. And I told people too, 57,000 people saw that speech. If I had made it to the finals, I would have still given that speech to 57,000 people one at a time. Because that is my message. I had an awakening and I wanted to share it with other people that I thought it might resonate with. So the win isn't the trophy. The win is being and having people be different in their lives. And you will do that if you practice and you know how to own your power in a stage or on a camera, and you be your message. And then all the rest of it, crafting what stories to tell. Heck, reach out to me if you have a way you want a message you have for the world. We'll go through your life and share what kind of stories you have in your life. People who go, oh, I didn't have an interesting life. Everything's an interesting life. If you took an Uber ride ever in your life, you have a story to tell. I'm pretty sure. Ask Dan, he can tell you. He can find humor in everything. He had me laughing at a story about being an evaluator. That's all I'm going to say to you. Forget the rules and you'll win contests. Except one rule, don't forget. Don't go over time. Don't do that one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda Marie. Can we give a big round of applause, please? That was it.
Ask my question, Dan.
Oh, you want one more question?
One more question?
Yeah, I can take one more question. Hey, it's only 4 o'clock here or whatever. You guys are late, not me.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks. Hello, Linda Marie. It sounds to me like you see a speech as an opportunity for creating transformation in every time that you speak, and that is what you're articulating. Am I listening to that correctly? That's kind of what I hear in the communicating. How do you want the audience to be at the end of the speech? Which is very
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, here's the thing, and I am also 20 years ago I got certified. I'm a certified experiential trainer. Yes. And I'll give you an example of what, if you know experience, maybe everybody doesn't. Experiential trainers don't give you information, because I could speak for an hour to a 10-year-old who's never been on a bicycle and tell them exactly how you ride a bicycle. I could give them a couple books to read on exactly how to ride a bicycle and wait 10 years and give them a bicycle and they couldn't ride it, most likely. But once you ride a bicycle, once you experience it, and it's mentally mapped into the cells of your body. I haven't been on a bicycle in 20 years, but I could ride a bicycle tomorrow. It's why we don't remember our first chemistry exam, but we remember our first kiss. It was experiential. So as an experiential trainer, I know the tricks to creating an experience in somebody, and having them come through their emotion center, or having them have a big aha or a reveal about themselves in a moment that would have them want to be different later. And the way I look at it is, if we're just on the stage to say words, we're wasting people's time. And if you think you're wasting people's time when you speak, it's only because you don't know your purpose yet. You don't know how magnificent you are and how you can transform the world. So that's what I'd say for that. But thank you so much for having me here tonight, guys. Tonight for you, this afternoon for me. I've really enjoyed it. And Dan, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Really, really great. Brilliant. I think, unfortunately, we've probably got about 50 people who are going to be entering a speech called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire next year in the contest. So we'll see how it goes.
Hey, I'll cheer you on if you get when you get there. That will, and in fact, I spoke in Saudi Arabia last week, and I said, "Who wants to be a millionaire?" And somebody typed in the chat, "Why not billionaire?" I'll go, "There you go. That's going to be the closing line in my speech." And when I'm on the finals next year, you'll go, "She stole that line from me." So I'm going to reach out to you and make sure I get your permission to use that line. So anyway, reach out to me. I'll go back to this slide if you can read it, lindamariemiller.com or miller.lindamarie@gmail. Reach out to me if you want to join my email list. I'll let you know what's coming up. I always do for doing free videos and free things with more of the actual neuro-linguistic programming mind mojo that actually controls judges into checking you off for first place.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Linda Marie. Thank you, Nish, as well, who was here right at the start, and that was the first time she's given a workshop in this environment. So brilliant job, Nish, as well. Thank you. Really, really good evening. We meet again as a Toastmasters Club, a normal regular meeting next Wednesday at 7 p.m. same time. We've been putting information in the chat all night, so if you'd like to come along and visit Society Speakers, then have a look in the chat. There's information there. I've seen other people have been putting lots of really good, useful information in there and WhatsApp groups and things, so have a look at that. But yeah, we'll be meeting next Wednesday. We'll have another one of these sessions in November. I think it's going to be November the 27th. We're going to do something similar. And yeah, have a good night, everyone. It was really, really enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Really appreciate tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone. That was great.
Thank you so much, Dan, for an amazing meeting.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
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 Everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Linda.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hi, Mary Lou.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hello.